I don't even know. We're live. Okay. Well, welcome for the playback, for the people already here, whatever. It's HoopBall. My name's Corban. Got my friend Brent. Both teaming up. This is the first edition of HoopBall Primetime. Got
Yeah,
some
man.
HoopBall. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. HoopBall experts getting together, just talking basketball from just a general perspective. I know Brent, the fantasy perspective, just all over. So, I mean, this is what it is. It's our maiden voyage, and we're excited to get to it. But, Brent, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I think I suggested our name Corbin in the middleman. I think that has a ring to it.
I like that, bro.
I think we should have our own podcast. That sounds like a real thing.
Spinoff. Corbin the middleman. That just works.
For sure. Yeah, we got the NBA expert with the fantasy expert. I mean, it's just hitting it from all angles.
Yeah, that's true. I need some help with my fantasy team because I messed up. And this is sad. Like I
need help too, and I'm an expert apparently. So
that's why I always say, I'm like, guys, check out HoopBall every day. I say it. I'm gonna say it right now, hoop-ball.com. Check it out. Online HoopBall tweets. You got people like Brent, Dan Besbris, Adam King, Aaron Brewski, all these fantasy experts that know how to get it done, and we'll show you. I didn't mention myself because I am on the totally other end of the spectrum. Like, I'm building my fantasy team around Anthony Edwards and Malik Beasley because that makes perfect sense.
Hey, anyone on the T-Wolves and you're safe.
I was like,
anyone other than Cat,
and I'll be okay. And I thought that I'm like, Cat's an injury risk, but these guys, they're gonna get a lot of minutes. They're gonna take a lot of shots. And somewhere in this, I need to sign up for HoopBall 362. And the sad thing is, I'm usually there reading and helping, but you know what? It's the bumps. It's the bumps. I say every year. Next year, I'm doing this for the big time. So, next year I'll be doing it. We'll see. But
yeah, and if you see me glance down, I'm actually live in the HoopBall Discord right now every Friday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. I answer questions live on there. I was in the process of moving from Arizona to California to the Bay Area. So last week I totally flaked that I was supposed to be in there, and I came in like 2 hours late and quickly knocked out like 30 questions from people. So,
one, that's bomb. That's cool. But I'm heartbroken because I'm in Arizona right now.
Oh, really? Oh, that's too bad. We could have got together.
For real. I didn't know.
COVID times, yeah.
Seriously. I mean, even some social distance game watching would have been all right. But, we can still make it happen sometime.
Is that where you live, or are you just visiting?
Yeah, no, I'm here. Yeah, I'm from New York. But Chandler area, like the Phoenix area?
Yeah, I was in Phoenix. I was there. I lived there 21 years, and I just moved back to the Bay Area with family.
Wow, that's cool.
Because I have full time, so yeah, I needed family help with them. But yeah, I'm a Phoenix guy for years. It just left.
Just missed. Always. Speaking of just missed, I mean, what do you think about the Suns Pelicans game? We had a full slate of games. I mean, we can kind of go into it, but just starting from what I saw from Suns Pelicans had a nice little lead going on. Zion's been playing well. Brandon Ingram bounced back, had a decent game today, and then all of a sudden, in the fourth quarter, between Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, and Chris Paul, the Suns took off, and what was once a very close game is now 130 to 111, and it seems like the Pelicans are going to be 12-17. Defensively, there's an issue. Let me give you these numbers. This is the fourth quarter. Right now, the Suns scored 39 points as of right now. It is fourth quarter. The Pelicans have scored 9 total.
Ouch.
Yes,
that's rough.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about that. What are your thoughts on the Pelicans in general? Because I had my initial issue with them. I mean, I've been all over with the Pelicans and how I felt, but I think the biggest thing was when they played the Blazers a couple nights back, and Zion was really leading the way for the Pelicans. Dame Lillard was keeping the Blazers afloat, right? But then come crunch time, the Blazers went to the guy who got them there. And the Pelicans turned away from that and went to Brandon Ingram in the last couple minutes of the game, in the last closing possessions. And in my mind, I get the general line of thinking. It's a guard, it's forward, they keep the ball in their hand. But at this point, Zion had already been initiating from up top. He'd already knocked down the 3-ball. He'd already got himself to the lane. He was clearly your hottest guy. It just feels like the Pelicans have this general lack of direction. And Lonzo, as Ben Carnado says, we got to talk about him too. I don't really know. They're just a weird team right now. They've been a weird team.
Yeah, and hey, what's up to Ben and Adam in the chat? Thanks for joining us live here. The Pelicans, I was really excited about that team at the beginning of the year. I thought they were super deep. But it turns out their bench isn't that great. They have good starters, but I think JJ Redick is, lucky he got that 20 mil or whatever he's getting this year, because I don't think that's happening again.
No.
Josh Hart just really, I mean, he's a decent NBA backup, but I don't even know that he's a sixth man in the NBA, at least lately. Jackson Hayes is, we knew he was a project coming out, and he's definitely needs work. But if Willie Hernan, this should have been Jackson Hayes' time with Adams going down. If Willie Hernan Gomez is taking your spot, you got work to do.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
reassess your career.
Yeah, I just, I like the young guys that they have. I like Kira Lewis. I like Alexander Walker. But they're just not there yet, and that bench is just not that impressive. Zion, Ingram, I mean, those guys are legit, but Bledsoe's lost a step. Lonzo's pretty inconsistent. It's really Zion and Ingram are your main guys, and they don't really have much else. I thought, just based off name value and the way the rookies played last year, I thought they would take a step forward, but they really haven't. And it's just disappointing because it's a super exciting team on paper, and Zion is so fun to watch. It'd be great to have them, be a playoff team for sure. But it's not really deep analysis there, but from what I've seen, the guys just aren't as good as we thought they were.
No, and I agree. It's another year of that. You see every time Zion's on national TV, and lately he's really been living up to the hype that's been on him from the jump. Not that he wasn't, but he's been like elevating that regularly. But in my mind, it's like you see it on Twitter. Everyone's like, "Oh well, it's a shame the team isn't there." Right up to his standards. Like we're watching Zion, but the team's inept. And some of this, a lot of this could have been different in the offseason. When you acquired Eric Bledsoe, if George Hill was available and you did not get him, that's a big deal. Injuries and whatnot aside, just in terms of having some actual shooting on the roster in that starting five. Having Alonzo, Eric Bledsoe backcourt is just cringe for spacing.
Yeah,
especially
in today's NBA.
Yeah, it's bad. And Alonzo's shooting better from three as of late, but still, his track record shows that it's iffy. And Eric Bledsoe has shown that for years. So you have those two. You have Steven Adams, who I love me some Steven Adams, partly because I'm a Westbrook fan. Yeah, but we know that that's not the ideal guy you want to have with Zion. If anything, you want Zion to play the five,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jackson Hayes is the time. Well, I guess you need more of a stretch guy. Yeah, you need more of a stretch guy.
You know what would be funny? I mean, this isn't even a right, but like I think almost like a couple years back where they had AD and like a Ryan Anderson type guy. Like you need someone defensively. They're more just more proficient on that end. That'd be great. But someone that's a spacer and can give Zion the room he needs to really be. I mean, he's making gravity out of literally nothing right now in New Orleans.
You heard it here first. Corban suggesting a Kevin Love trade for the Pelicans.
Ooh, okay. I mean, why not?
Hey, yeah. So, surround him with a bunch of young guys. But yeah, Kevin Love in his prime type guy would be pretty ideal.
Yeah,
just trying to think of options for the Pelicans. I mean, Bledsoe's definitely. I mean, if you're a playoff team, Bledsoe's a guy you might be willing to pick up. I mean, you're not going to give up a lot for him, but maybe you can get somebody decent just based on his track record.
For sure.
I've been super impressed with Zion, like you said. He's improved his free throws. His turnovers are down. Just from a fantasy perspective, he's shown us that he can take that next step.
Yeah.
And that's what we were hoping to see. And now he just needs to develop that 3-point shot. And he's going to be he's going to be a top 10 stud.
For real. I got him on a few of my teams, so I'm actually excited. That was one of the few things I did right. So that's nice. But I see some talk on the Hawks going on. I mean, I know they lost to the Celtics. And those questions on John Collins. In general, I have questions on them. So let's kind of direct our attention to the Hawks, and you can go from the fantasy side here and kind of get where they're going. I mean, between Trae Young, between John Collins, where he has been, where he's going to be. But like even on the more holistic like NBA side, it is weird to kind of see, okay, he didn't get that extension. Are the Hawks going to keep him through the rest of the year? Are they going to try to move him? Because although he's injured, you still have Onyeka Okongwu waiting. You still have other guys that are going to get more minutes, in that vein. So kind of where is his future? And not only just on the Hawks, but I guess with different trade targets. Kind of what are we thinking about the Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just as surprised by John Collins as anybody, but it feels like maybe Atlanta kind of maybe knew something that we didn't by not
Had
giving him
to.
that extension. Because based off talent alone, it seemed like it was a no-brainer. And when they didn't give it to him, and they brought in Capella and they drafted a center, it's like, wait a minute, is there something? What's going on?
Right? What's going on?
That it's what, honestly, when it came fantasy draft time, I still drafted with like thinking Collins was going to be awesome and advise people that way. But in hindsight, it's looking like, maybe we should have seen something was going on there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get traded at all, especially with the depth they have at center. And these guys coming back, the fact they went out and got Gallo too. I mean, it made no sense at the time when you have a guy like Collins, but now, maybe they saw something in practice. Maybe he just wasn't picking up the playbook. I mean, who knows? Because I mean, he's got all the gifts in the world athletically. Some guys it just doesn't click, and a lot of times a change of scenery though will take care of that. He's one of those guys I could easily see get brought over to another team with a different system of coaches and just become an all-star. Yeah. He's got that type of talent. So I think he needs to go. Otherwise, I'm super excited about the Hawks. They're young, they're exciting. Trae Young it seems like he's finally getting into a little bit of a groove. It was a little bit of a rough start, but those young guys they have, the way Hunter has developed, a lot of people had lost track of Hunter and didn't think he was going to turn into anything, but his shots really developed. Yeah. Cam Reddish is starting to look like a legit player. Herder's an exciting young guy who's still a little bit inconsistent, and it's frustrating from a fantasy perspective, but they're set up for the modern NBA. I mean, they got wings upon wings upon wings. They got the sharp shooting assist master point guard. They got the rim running shot blocker center in two of them now with Ngongwu, because he looks like he could be a Capella type. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Collins go at all and help boost up that core that they have. I'd hate to see him go for nothing. So I think they'll try to get something.
And I mean, they do shooting 50% from the field, 40 from three, 86 from the line. He had a dud today. Like, if we're looking at the Hawks versus Celtics today, Celtics won 121-109. I guess the questions around John Collins were more concerning because he just had a bad game in my mind, but like, it still was a bad game. 30 minutes, 8 points on 3 of 13. Took 3 threes, didn't make any, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, like just a dud. But I mean, those do happen.
It happens,
not my fantasy perspective here, but like, that's gonna happen. The guy's been pretty solid all year. I mean, he's coming off of a game 2 days ago against the Celtics where he had 20 points and 6 rebounds on 6 of 9 shooting. The game before that, 19 points at 8 of 14 shooting. So it happens, like, but in general, I mean, he's like you said, like the perfect kind of front court guy. Yeah. I really wish I think that, they may have been some personality issues. I don't know. Obviously, Trae Young seems to be a prickly guy to play with, although he's talented. Yeah. He just kind of rubs off that way. We've seen the kind of tantrum, kind of pouting he's done on the court, as far as not shooting or whatever the case may be after games. So it's kind of weird. But like, if you have a tandem like that, at least offensively, I mean, I want to put like some base comparison like Nash and Mari, but you have a guy in Collins who plays above the rim, great pick and pop partner. It can take up that gravity both vertically, like both sides. And you have a guy like Trae Young who's really stretching defenses from like 35 feet. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Okongwu, Clint Capella, those guys are good in their own way, but they don't replicate what Collins brings to the table. And so for me, that's where it's like, okay, I get it. And if there's real issues, that makes sense. But if not, you're getting a guy in Collins who's uniquely talented, and you're going to just give him up, yes, for 2 good guys, but they don't have that same skill set. And some of that is valuable. We're going to have potential spacing issues, especially if Gallinari, because he can't play defense as, let's just say reliably, like you're going to have issues in terms of the composition of the team when it is crunch time and having that balance of offense and defense. And so I don't know. I mean, I worry about that because, I mean, I'm going to be excited to see where Collins ends up. Maybe the Hawks change their mind. I doubt it, but I mean, it's so weird, and it going into the season, I wasn't as high on the Hawks as everyone else was, but I saw, okay, you bring in some solid vet pieces. You have some young guys, you bet on them to step up. You still have Collins, you still have Trae Young, boom. And almost instantly between that, not offering the extension, not agreeing to terms and injuries. And the Hawks are still talented enough that
the
they're
rumors
there.
About Collins and Trey and button heads.
Beef in there. Exactly. And so you have this kind of dissension that you really don't need because the vets who can play haven't been out. Of course, Bogdanovich being out for a while has obviously been impactful. You've had slippage from some players. Rajon Rondo, when he has played, has been, and all of that comes into play. And yeah, the Hawks are still, not trash. They're still in the thick of it. But obviously, I think it's clear to say that they are, not meeting expectations.
For sure. And it's not even to say that Collins has been bad. I mean, he's been a really good player.
Exactly.
The expectations for him were just so high, especially from a fantasy perspective coming into this season, that it's been a little bit of a letdown, just these kind of dud games that he'll have. We were expecting, 30 points, 15 rebounds, 3 block, 3-3 type of games. And, he just hasn't been there. And, otherwise, I love what the Hawks are building, and I'd be super excited to be an Atlanta fan right now. It does feel a little bit like when Golden State was starting to turn that corner, having those pieces, and who knows, but I think a change has to happen probably for both Collins and the Hawks. It's a shame to see him lose that guy because I have a feeling a year or two from now, we're going to be like, man, remember when Collins was on the Hawks?
Yeah.
Kind of like when Harden, we look back and we're like, remember when Harden was on OKC?
2012, Harden, Durant, Westbrook, and what could have been. It's going to be one of those. Yeah. I kind of agree with you because I do think these guys are just so good that they're going to find success. It's going to be different and maybe varying degrees of that, as we've seen with the Thunder. That's a great point. Yeah.
Not that he's going to be like, a Harden, but, I think he definitely could be, borderline all-star type of player, especially in the modern NBA. A big who can block shots and stretch the floor. I mean, that's and a point guard like Trey are the money positions, and Atlanta has both, and they're going to lose it. It's super frustrating.
It is. Speaking of frustrating, I kind of want to go to the other team that the Hawks played, the Celtics. They've been, in my mind, frustrating. Jaylen Brown has just improved just across the board. Definitely thought he should have been an all-star starter, even though, I had my thoughts on that. He's definitely going to be in the all-star game, so that's great. Jason Tatum's been solid as well. I just feel like everything else Boston's done to a lesser extent. Kemba Walker, obviously, out the gate, came out slow. He's not been exactly the same. He says he's trying to fit his way in, but, it's a work in progress. You obviously have the unfortunate injury to Marcus Smart. The Celtics have been really reeling since that. The front court,
he's the heart of that team, man.
Yes. Yeah, and you said it. And not having that juice is gone. Forget a very useful rotation player, someone who starts and, is that spark plug, that secondary point guard, all of that. But it's not even that. It's the intangibles, like you said. Yeah. You don't have that. And I don't know what Brad Stevens doing, Daniel Tyson, Tristan Thompson. It's weirdly undersized, not nearly spaced enough, and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I totally.
My man Nate. Sorry, shout out to Nate.
Be careful here.
I know. I got to lightly. Yeah. He's shout out to him and Premium Hoops. There's something else, but go on. I'm sorry.
Look, and shout out to the other Brent in the chat. Apparently, we got to stick together, us Brent. Look, you got to be really excited if you're a Celtics fan. They're hitting a little bit of a lull, but they're 15 and 14. They should be a lot better. But without Smart, this is without Smart, who, he makes it easier for the other guys on the team. So when he's not out there, everyone has to work that much harder on defense. Everyone has, and, look, these guys aren't, Kemba Walker's not known for his defense. These guys, Jaylen Brown, great defender. Tatum is getting a lot better at defense. But having a guy like Smart bust his butt on the defensive side makes it so much easier for those guys to work offensively. And so not having him in the lineup, it's a struggle. But, don't worry about the Celtics. I think come playoff time, they're going to be rolling. I think Kemba's already, showing signs of getting back to his old self. He had 28, 5, and 6 tonight. The Hawks were a good cure for whatever was ailing them because they stepped up big. Robert Williams from – I told people, hang on to him, even though the three-headed monster is back, Tice is back in. Williams has so much potential in the blocks department that, he's worth hanging on to. And I think he had 4 blocks tonight. Wow. 4 blocks, 2 steals, 12 and 7. He had 5 steals the other night, 4 or 5 steals the other day. Great fantasy player, probably available on a lot of waiver wires right now. I would pick up Robert Williams. There's going to be a couple games here and there where he doesn't get a lot of minutes or he doesn't do great because they do have Tyson Thompson. But he's just too much of a talent for Boston to not let loose at some point. So, I love what they're building. I love their bench. Pritchard looks like a great find in the second round, a steal. Ojale has looked a lot better lately, but he's inconsistent too, but he's a strong defender and a tough guy out there when you watch him play. But that starting 5 they got is legit, especially when Smart's in that lineup. So, I wouldn't worry at all if you're a Celtics fan. These things happen in a season, especially a weird season like this with no preseason. There's going to be weird dips and stuff, but I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the East when it comes down to it.
I definitely hope so. I mean, not Brad Stevens. Danny Ainge just 2 days ago was saying that, and maybe he was doing this to try to just shoulder the blame and be that, but I guess the good leader or the soldier of taking like the accountability or taking the blame for the Celtic struggles, which of course between injuries, COVID, and just the roster being in flux with that lends to it. But he basically said that he was asked if he believes Celtics are a championship team, and he said that he doesn't right now, and that it's not on Brad Stevens or Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, but that he doesn't believe they have the pieces. And for me, first of all, I mean, that's disrespectful to guys like Jeff Teague, who I'm just kidding. I like Jeff Teague, but
dude, he got Wally pipped. He got Wally pipped by a second round round guys. Though.
Oh man, he totally lost his fastball last. I mean, it was sad that he was such an improvement on the Hawks as a backup point guard last year when he didn't really change that much. It was just having someone adequate on the ball. But aside from that, the Celtics right now, I mean, they have an efficiency differential that's their lowest since 2014, 2015. And that was back when they finished 40 and 42. And it's weird because you're right. When healthy, when they get all these guys back, they're going to have at least a decent team. I wouldn't favor them against the Nets or maybe the 76ers, but I would put them up neck and neck with a bunch. But aside from that, do you think, okay, even up healthy, if we take this team and we don't make any moves, either trade or buyout or whatever the case may be, where do you see the Celtics' ultimate ceiling? I mean, they can obviously, anyone can get lucky in the East in that way. I'm not saying that as a sort of a knock on them. I'm just saying, what is their ultimate ceiling as of right now?
I think the ceiling for this team is probably Eastern Championship game. I think there's the Nets. And then there's everybody else. And I think, Sixers, Toronto's look really good lately. I think any of those teams can be that second team in the East and win a series. They have that kind of talent. I don't know that they have I don't think they're championship talent. I think you put Gordon Hayward on this team, maybe their championship team. That's pretty rough the way he's been playing.
Yeah, he's been borderline all-star. I mean, in some of and we can talk about that in a minute, but in some of my run-throughs of who was going to be there, he was right there until I listened to some feedback from my peers and I was like, well, because I had him in there for sure. And almost to the point of oh yeah, Kyrie's good too. Oh yeah, this guy's good too. These other guys, but Hayward's been a revelation and he's been, I mean, if you look at the numbers and everything, playing pretty much the same. I mean, it's great looking stats, great numbers. Maybe because he's in Charlotte and it's fresh eyes on him and he pops a little more in a different scenario that he looks better. But I mean, he's healthier, I guess. But he other than that, I mean, it looks very similar to Boston in certain ways. Yeah,
he does, and he's the Gordon Hayward who got really good in Utah, got a huge contract, and then he had that injury. And we never really got to see full out Gordon Hayward in Boston. We got a little bit of that last year, but I think that's the type of injury. That's almost a 2-year injury. He's not a freak like Kevin Durant, who somehow is still KD after the Achilles. I mean, that's unbelievable the way he's come back from that. I mean, it's got to give everybody hope. Klay Thompson, people like that. Hope they can come back. I mean, look, not everyone's 7 feet tall who can handle a point guard and has a 10-foot
best jump shot around
on his jump shot. Yeah. So I mean, he's just a freak as it is anyway. But it's got to give guys hope that there's a path you can follow to get back to 95% of what you were. And I think Hayward just that injury. I think there's a mental aspect to an injury like that where you're landing, and you're probably always thinking in the back of your head, like, is my leg going to hold out? And I can't even imagine. I've never had an injury like that, but I can only imagine I would be super paranoid that it was going to happen again. And
every time
it probably takes a while to get over that. And I think a new team, he's years now, it's far enough removed. It's not a mental block anymore. And we get the old Gordon Hayward back. And Charlotte's a really fun team to watch. Not to jump from Boston, but
sure, we can go.
What a fun team, man, and good for them. I feel bad for Hornets fans. It's been a rough road, but they have some really exciting pieces on that team now, who they should be pumped to watch. And I've even caught myself looking at League Pass and going, "Oh, Charlotte's on. I want to check that out."
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're pretty much middle of the pack across the board, which is good for Charlotte. I mean, right now, as they sit, they're 8th in the East, 17th in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating, and 18th in net rating. And so, I mean, they've been okay. Like, and I would never say I'm like a straight out Hornets fan. Like, you have some excellent Hornets coverage and people who are on all the time. I'm definitely more of like a Terry Rozier guy or like a Devontae Graham person. Guys who chuck it up, like, that speaks to me. That's my type of ball. So, like, watching them last year, I was really already kind of on board with them. And then the addition of LaMelo, not gonna lie, I kind of thought, I mean, he was obviously just off the gate, just utterly cerebral and just gifted player on that end. But I was on the Anthony Edwards hype train. I still am.
Nobody knew what to expect with LaMelo.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, exactly. I definitely thought he could be, another, I don't want to say another Lonzo in that way. Lonzo's a perfectly serviceable player, but definitely not number one or 2 or 3 in that vein. But like, he's been great, like a shot in the arm to them. It kind of helped, I guess, that he was playing strong while Devontae Graham definitely slipped, regressed a little bit this past year, although he's kind of rounded back into decent form as of the last couple of weeks or so. But he has made an instant connection with Miles Bridges that's just been crazy.
Those are fun highlights.
Yeah. When his shot is on, I mean, he has confidence in the shot that I wish Lonzo would. Like, I get it. It's a different and unique shot. I understand. But he practiced shot all the time. The shot got him through high school, through overseas to the NBA. It is what it is. And if it's going to work, it's going to work. And he's sitting behind it. And even that confidence that he brings that, even though it's not the most efficient or whatever, it forces defense on. It makes him more of a threat. It opens up his game. And that's one thing I'm always seeing from him. That is just like, wow, like the showmanship, yes, but fearless out there. And he's a 19-year-old kid. I hate saying kid. We're not, we're all in the area, but in that vein, he's like just going up there and making things happen. And that team, I mean, Malik Monk has shown signs of life this year. Like you said, Gordon Hayward stepped up. Bismack Biyombo's kind of had a nice
TJ Washington truther. Yeah,
he's been solid. I wasn't as hyped up on him this year. It felt like not Hornets fans, but like the Hornets were definitely pushing him to be like this. He's going to be handling a little bit of everything. They weren't saying he was like a Nikola Jokic light, but they were basically having like he's going to be all over. And it's like, okay, let's kind of branch into that. You know what I mean? Like, he showed a really good shot last year. Build a little bit more. Like, let's not make him into this like all-world, offensive initiating center when you just drafted a point guard and you already have 2 other guys. But the one guy I've been most impressed by this year, and I mean, it's on brand for me to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Terry Rozier. Like, the way this guy's evolved. I mean, this year, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, just under 50% from the field, just a red-hot 44% from 3, super good PR. Like, he's good. And he's someone who's kind of selling his role of, okay, I can just manufacture shots and I can make those things happen. Like, he can kind of swing between the point and the 2, and like, even at 6'1", maybe, not maybe, a little undersized 2, but like, he comes in and he just gets buckets. And he's evolved into this guy that like is a specialist in that role, and he's keeping his efficiency super high, and he's had a couple of really good games for the Hornets this year.
He's an NBA starter. And there was questions when he signed that big contract if they were paying starter money to a guy who's not starter caliber, and he proved everybody wrong. He proved that he's deserving to be a starter in the NBA. He did, maybe not that. He's earning that contract. I mean, he's played as good as he's played better than people who are making more money than him. So good for Rozier. It shows maybe Charlotte isn't as inept as an organization as they got the rap they've gotten. They've gotten a lot out of their acquisitions. They've gotten a lot out of Biyombo, Zeller when they needed them. They've drafted well. They have guys who they drafted, like Monk looked a little bit like a miss, but people forget he's 21 years old and had off-court trouble. I mean, but it looks like, they disciplined him. They sat him on the bench. They made him watch, and it seems like he might have learned his lesson. And
double-digit score, 22 still.
Yeah, exactly. So, good for them, man. I'm excited for the Hornets and their fans. I've been a lifelong Warrior fan, and it's only been good the last 5 or 6 years. Before that, the rest of my life was just a misery. It seemed like we could never get a break. Like when they signed Durant, it was like, that doesn't happen to the Warriors. The Warriors don't get guys like that. And then, so I feel like the Hornets, the Hawks, teams like that, I always get excited when it seems like they're right on the verge of getting to that point too. Over. Even for the Nets to be where they're at, after years of struggling and terrible trades, they, took years to get over. Just to be able to get a big three like that together is awesome for Nets fans. And anything that hurts the Knicks, I like. So,
we got to talk about the Knicks too in a minute, but I feel you on that. I mean, they've been all right this year.
They've been good. Yeah,
it's funny. They had a good offseason, and we were in good by like not rocking the boat, making pretty smart plays, and we're like, oh, this is different. Like, all right, okay, we'll see how it goes. And they come out and they have a good start to the season. We're like, all right, we'll see how it goes. And they had some knocks, obviously, but like, we're getting close midway now, and they've still been competent. I mean, Julius Randle, he's definitely in the conversation for All-Star. He's in mine, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And to answer Doug, your question about the Celtics, we just talked about them a little bit ago, and honestly, it's a mix. I mean, you have a big loss of Marcus Smart, injuries there. You've had, of course, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been solid, but let's look at the team around them at some point. Jeff Teague is still being relied upon. Kemba Walker was out. He's being integrated back in. That's taking like a little bit of a learning curve, especially when he comes back in now. And if you remember how he played last year, he was kind of that guy, and it was really Jaylen Brown taking more of a secondary type of role. But now he's really coming to his own as well. And so now you have the pecking order of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and yet Kemba Walker was out, now trying to integrate his way in. Add to that, the front court I still like Tyson and Tristan Thompson, but you just have a lot of flux going on. So the inconsistency is due to injuries, not really having anything set yet, and players trying to adapt to different roles on the fly. So it's a little bit of that. But I mean, Brent said, at the end of the day, not really too much to be worried about. Assuming everyone gets back healthy and things continue to go on the right track. So that's kind of where they're at. No real, I guess, sound the alarms, like you would if you were Miami Heat. But anyways, real quick before we
no kidding. Yeah.
Before we get there, though, I do got to say, no problem, Doug. No, before we get there, I do got to say, as a long-suffering Lakers fan, people like to say, oh, you have AD and LeBron, but like we had years where I had to talk myself into guys like I lobbied, and I'm glad this Facebook's long gone, but I had like written a rant on why Carlos Boozer was really going to be the impact player we needed back in 2015, and like. Yikes, okay? But you had him. I thought that we'd have a renaissance season for Wesley Johnson. I thought that Nick Young would get all the minutes he needs to be a borderline star. I mean, I was on the Vanderbilt hype train before we even had a Vanderbilt hype train. We still probably don't even have that. I mean, it's on and on. Roy Hibbert. If we had, it's been a rough couple of years. Even the years where we were like 15 and 67 or whatever the case may be, and then we were like beating the Warriors or whatever. Like those one games, that was my NBA Finals. So now we have LeBron and AD. It's like, all right, cool, we back. Compared to other rosters, 5 years isn't that long a time. But
that's why it's hard to feel bad for Laker fans.
Yeah,
the gap between those lean years were there, yes, but the gap between the good years was not that. I could leap over it with one jump. There's I don't need a stepping stone in the middle to make it.
No, that's true. And I mean, and mind you, I guess all fan bases have some level of obnoxiousness. I tend to think of myself as like a more self-aware obnoxious, because I get it. Like I'm all in there, and I feed into it sometimes myself. But yeah, as Adam said, the Swaggy P legacy. Remember that Christmas game, Adam? 2014. Yeah, it was the last year LeBron and AD were together. I mean, not LeBron, AD. LeBron and Dwayne Wade, and they were just alley-ooping on us. And then Nick Young had that one, third quarter into the fourth quarter. And I was like, yeah, that was my Christmas gift, man. I mean, we ultimately lost. But, and remember, they made, those two iconic, alley-oop plays. But Nick Young had moments. He had his moments. He definitely did. But let's talk about the Heat, because this is a team, as Doug said, the Heat should be worried. And they really, really should be right now. They just had a loss to the Warriors, who they were taking care of pretty handily. And yeah, again,
that was a fun comeback.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, if you again, I'm talking to the right person about that, am I not? Right?
Yeah.
But like, you have a team right now. They sit 11th, right? You know, offensively they're rough, 25th. Defensively they're 9th. Net rating they're 23rd. And you know, again, you've had injuries. Goran Dragic has been out for a spell. You had Tyler Hero starting as point guard. Butler missed time, and then COVID, and then coming back from that, still being kind of out of the loop in terms of getting himself back up to speed. So you have that. A lot of young guys being pushed into roles that they weren't ready for. You know, Precious Achiuwa, guys like that. Max Struss has had some moments. You know, Andre Iguodala's looked. I mean, like a guy who's played 16 years.
Yeah,
you know, like, and all age like LeBron. You know, things
he's a
like
good
that.
locker room presence.
Yeah. Exactly, and one that has to unfortunately still be used is like, you know, that like a small ball five.
Game anyway, shutdown guy.
Yeah. Exactly. So sorry, I paused there for a sec. But aside from that, you know, it's a weird kind of fit. But honestly, like, they've just had some games where they've been just straight up disappointing. I mean, that Warriors game, I get it, but the Warriors were pretty much going small at that time. You know what I mean? Bam Adebayo's had some good, some bad. He's kind of been.
They weren't going small on purpose.
They had no choice.
Oh, they're all hurt. Yeah, there is no big guys.
And
the Heat should have won that game. There was no reason to lose that game.
Yeah, and so I look at them and I go, yeah, they're going to be in a play-in game, and yeah, that'll make them dangerous. I mean, you don't want to face Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler-led team in a one-game like do-or-die situation, but like if they get there and I'm playing you as like the 1-8 or whatever,
yeah,
I'm not worried. And mind you, last year I don't even want to be like a Miami Heat kind of hater or anything, but like I felt like, you know, they took advantage of, they played well during a time when a lot of teams were kind of checked out or not all the way there. They rode that. You know, I think the lack of home court advantage really messed up some teams, mind you. I mean, that's not an excuse, especially if you're looking at Milwaukee or teams like that. But at the same time, I never thought that Miami was going to be able to repeat that this year, even before everything happened. Like, they were a very solid team. They're going to be a mess. They're going to be trouble. But I just didn't see it. And so this year, while I didn't expect them to disappoint as much as they have, like, where are you on that? Did you have like similar expectations for Miami? Like, what were your thoughts on where they would end up, and how do you feel about where they are now?
Yeah, no, I mean, similar to you last year. I definitely didn't expect it. I know there was a lot of people who know a lot about basketball who were saying, "Watch out for the Heat! Watch out for the Heat!" I definitely heard those rumblings before the playoffs, and you know what? Good for them. They were right. I mean, they took it further than anyone really thought they would, except maybe a few real insiders. But you know, I think one coming off. I think it was really hard being in the bubble. I think it was really hard playing all the way to the finals, because that's an extra like month almost than everybody else. Super short off season. Older guys like Butler, who have played a lot of minutes in the NBA, coming off a long season with no recovery time. I did feel like going into this season there would be a bit of a letdown. I kind of thought that. They're much worse than I thought they would be at the moment. They're showing flashes. The young guys that they have look great. I mean, Precious Achiuwa looks like a really great draft pick. Gabe Vincent looks good. Strus looks good. They should be very excited about it. Hero hasn't quite taken the step that a lot of people thought he would in real life and in fantasy. He was getting dressed in some leagues. And lately he's gotten a little bit better. And I think he's in his perfect role. I think sixth man, kind of handling the ball off the bench, the main distributor, coming in. He seems to be comfortable there. Duncan Robinson's been a little more inconsistent.
I think the league's caught up to him.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of been caught up to a little bit.
Yeah, he's not a secret anymore. You're right.
No,
yeah.
He's still very good. Like, we get it. He comes in, he does his job shooting threes, he does it well. But at this point, it's not surprising anymore. If you take him off the 3-point line, you run him off of that, you kind of know what's going to happen, Do you see
exactly.
a way? I'm sorry. No, I'm going to let you. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I mean, I think sorry, you were kind of breaking up there for a second.
Yeah, my fault. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, so I think look, I think the Heat still have a lot of the same pieces they had. I think once Dragic gets healthy, none getting this playing time is probably a blessing in disguise. He needed a confidence boost, and it's great to have him coming off the bench. When they're fully healthy, they're gonna be pretty dangerous. I wouldn't. They could have another one of these playoff runs, sneak into the playoffs and make a big run again. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that if they can stay healthy. Butler's been awesome like the last couple of games. It hasn't, and so is Bam. They just haven't. I don't know. It just feels like the heart that they had last year isn't really there, and it could just be a fatigue thing from the run through the bubble. But I'm not terribly worried. I think they're going to get in the playoffs, and I think they're going to be scary. But I think the other teams in the East the top teams are too strong right now for what we saw last year to happen again. So I think they make the playoffs, but I don't see a magical run. Maybe they win in the first round, but depends on the matchup. But look, Bam and Butler and Hero, these guys are legit studs, and they have a deep bench. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get a read on them with all the injuries and the COVID stuff. It's really hard. Yeah. So you can tell I'm leaning one way and then I talk myself out of it. Yeah. I'm kind of like that with everybody with the COVID and coming off the bubble. It's really hard to get a read on teams right now.
In fact,
talk to me in a month. Yeah.
There you go. No, I want to ask you a question as someone big on the fantasy side. How are you kind of gauging, players, situations, fit with the current environment where from game to game, I played Dennis Schroeder, but had him in my lineup set for, that Lakers game against the Nets. And then all of a sudden, boom, and that's a hit. Where are you in terms of, on the fantasy side, kind of keeping up with that and making moves? Are you more cautious about certain plays? Are you really monitoring, kind of what is the process that goes into that in this unique environment?
Yeah, this year's crazy. Like we're not going to have like in years past. Some teams you could set your lineup and just kind of not think about it. This year, yeah, the teams that are going to win fantasy this year are the teams that are paying attention every day because the Schroeder's out, get someone else in, pick someone up off waivers. There's going to be a lot of guys who are on waivers, off waivers, on waivers, off waivers because. Like a Naz Reid or something. Like Cat's out, get Naz Reid in, but when Cat's in, Naz Reid's like useless. So there's going to be those type of guys who are stars when the guy's hurt and then nothing when they're not. So I think the key to this year is just pay attention. That's you got to look every day. You got to look at injury reports. You got to monitor who's in, who's out. That's the only way that you're gonna win consistently. That's it. I mean, that's my best advice. And then come on to HoopBall, get into the Discord, look who people are talking about, and then go see if they're available in your league. And also don't overreact too. I think like if a guy like Cat is out or Butler is out or something, all the good guys are going to be out at some point. Everyone, they're going to do makeup games. So look at how many games they've played. Before you panic, because those games are going to happen at some point. So don't panic on guys and pay attention. That'd be my main two tips.
I appreciate that. No, I mean, that's great for anyone, but especially on my end, because I was very much like the old TV ad, set it and forget it. Like that's how I like to look at when I drafted. I did my job. Like I drafted, I put them out, make sure we healthy and we good. And now, if you're not on, especially if you're on multiple teams, making multiple plays, you really got to check it out because I did one last year where I just picked the same group of people for every team, which was, again, my fantasy stuff. Some of them I'm grateful to be part of HoopBall because, you don't know what I'm talking about. But it's a lot.
Just follow Bruce's rankings and then
Bruce 150.
Just follow the rankings, draft your team, and then just make sure the guys who have games are playing that day, and you'll be fine. But this year's totally different. I mean. It's rough. We're coming off no preseason. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of rookies do better than we expected. From what everyone thought was a weak draft, we're getting a lot of rookies making a pretty big impact, even into fantasy. When a guy like Peyton Pritchard is getting picked up and played, it's just, because I think the older guys had a tough time with that short off season. I think it was hard for them to get back, and the young guys were just raring to go. And so the coaches were like, all right, get out there and do something. And they've made it happen. And the old guys are still trying to get their legs under them, I think, at this point. Yeah. So we'll see. I think the second half is a total mystery to me. What's going to happen? Who's going to get COVID? What's going to go on with makeup games? I mean, we could see back-to-back games at some point for some teams, and then who's going to sit those games? Are they going to play everybody? Are they going to, there's a lot of question marks about what's going to happen. So, just pay attention and don't panic, and listen to the experts, and you'll be all right, because everyone's in the same boat. You'll look at your team and see. I know guys that have 6 guys on the injured reserve list right now, and you're like, what am I supposed to? Eventually, that's going to all get made up for at some point, and you're going to get a chance to make that up. So just pay attention.
Got you, definitely, for sure. I appreciate that. I mean, I guess my next question would be, okay, if we're looking at from the fantasy side and maybe turning to some of the West. We hit on the Heat, the Celtics. I mean, we'll be back doing this. We're not going to cover every team today here, but just real quick, kind of before we head out here, what are you thinking about how the West is looking? The Utah Jazz have been streaking. The Lakers, obviously, with AD being out for 4 weeks now, and that continued management of that. The Clippers, I mean, inevitably, you're going to get Kawhi and Paul George back. Yep. What do you see right now? Like your quick kind of like overview of the Western Conference, at least at the top as it stands.
Yeah, I mean, look, the teams at the top are who we kind of thought there would be. I'm really surprised by the teams that have struggled. We talked about the Pelicans, the Kings. I expected a lot more from those teams. So it'll be interesting to see if they get it together. I'm really going to be watching the trades that happen. These contenders at the top of the West, if they go out and get it, who's going to get Andre Drummond? Who's going to get Blake Griffin? Who's going to get John Collins potentially? There's a lot of big name veteran guys that are going to be traded at some point, and they're difference maker type of guys. I mean, Andre Drummond, put him on any one of those top teams in the West, and you're talking about just how the Lakers were unstoppable with their size last year. Those are people that can compete with a big team like that, and I think a lot of. Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious where Drummond is going to end up.
I agree.
And even Blake Griffin, I think, could be a difference maker on a team like that, where he could come in off the bench and be a good passer, and as long as he's not the main guy, because he shoots like 30% now, but but as a sixth man or a starter who gets 25 solid minutes or something like that, I think he could be a great pickup. I was going to ask you, what do you think of this Jazz win streak? Are they a contender? Can they win it all?
Oh my gosh. When it first started, I'm like, okay, let's pump all the brakes on the Utah Jazz. They're playing well, but look who they're playing. Teams missing key guys, whatever the case may be. As it keeps building and building, you can't help but look at this team and go, okay, at the end of the day, they're 24-5. They're 4th in offensive rating, 2nd in defensive rating, 1st in net rating. Like, no matter what you do, like, you're putting up those numbers, you're legit, And so for me, I still want to see how they are against, the Brooklyn Nets, a healthy Clippers team, a healthy Lakers team, and see where they measure up against the top at their best. But right now, I mean, they're the hottest team in town. They've been playing really well. They are
and no Mike Conley.
Yes, and that's another thing, because Mike Conley's playing solid too. They're rating 5 from 3. They're getting really good help across the board. Jordan Clarkson's been playing really well. I mean, they even get some Jordan Clarkson All-Star votes, which calm all the way down. But at the same time, he's been legit. Rudy Gobert has been doing what he does. Donovan Mitchell's been a lot more productive this year. I don't even say a lot more productive. I feel like it's the same type of 24, 4, and 5 on 40% from 3 and 43, 44% from the field. It's not.
Is there room for Donovan? Is there room for Donovan to improve? It feels like he may have peaked early or something.
I mean, I feel like if he can improve, it's more of a primary offensive initiator. Kind of that guy that does like a DeMar DeRozan. Where you can just give the ball to them, and he plays point guards for stretches. But I'm saying in general, okay, the offense can hum with you as that guy. Kind of distributing, making everything go. And right now the Jazz are blessed with having him and Conley and forgetting the name now, Joe Ingles and other guys like that.
Ingles, Bojan. I mean, these guys are all incredible shooters. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have that. But I think if he can involve in that way, I mean, his shot making ability, you can always say be more efficient. I mean, 40% from three is great, 42% from the field overall. You know what I mean? But a lot of that he has a diet of middies. He likes taking those mid-range jumpers. That's his jam. And so you win some, you lose a lot. But it's been working so far for him. So I feel like he can improve on those other aspects of the game, be a little more efficient, play with himself some. There's maybe another couple of attacks. But right now, he seems to have crested at that and get it. 24, 4, and 5.
That's great. Yeah.
Bad. Yeah. But I don't know. Is that, if you take that and Rudy Gobert and a solid cast, that's the foundation of a championship team when you have the LA Clippers and the Brooklyn Nets and the LA Lakers and the Philadelphia 76ers and other teams like that. I don't know. In a game, in a series where you can, scout them out and measure them and go that way, I think it's a little more dicey. That's my own personal opinion. I want to be a hater on that, but that's how I feel. And I think when we see the Jazz play those teams and kind of measure from there, I think we'll really see kind of where they're at. But right now, I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, number one in net rating, that doesn't lie either. So, there may be a little bit of noise, but we get it.
Yeah, it feels like they almost need They need Donovan to become one of those 30-point scorer guys. They need him to be more like a Bradley Beal type of guy, but just to be championship caliber. I think that's what feels off about the Jazz is that they don't have that one mega star, MVP type of guy. It's more of a full team kind of thing. Even the Nuggets have Jokic, as their MVP guy. The Jazz, they don't have anyone who is even in the MVP vote, but they're one of the best teams. So you'd think there would be one guy, but they're so well-rounded. Do they need someone like that to be considered for the championship, or can you win a championship just having a really solid, well-rounded team?
I mean, I'm trying to think of the last team that had that. Usually, like you said, traditionally you have that type of, that lead guy and several really good
the
players.
The Warriors have won. They had Durant, Curry, Toronto, Kawhi, LeBron,
you had
AD.
Exactly. You want to go back further, you had the Miami Heat back then. I guess the earliest team, and even then you still had Dirk, would have been that Mavericks team. But what I see about Utah right now is that they have 6 players that are averaging double digits, incredibly balanced in that way. You have 3 guys averaging 4.5 assists or more. And that's Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Joe Ingles as well. So you have some balance there. You get the defensive just lockdown between Rudy Gobert and Royce O'Neal. Derek favors his return. Not only has it been a unifying factor for them, but in general being another productive big. So
who they're kind of reminiscent of? Sorry to cut you off. No. Those Pistons teams with Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman.
Oh, wow, way back.
All defense, because Isaiah Thomas was an all-star, but he wasn't he wasn't Michael Jordan. He wasn't,
guy.
But their defense was incredible. And I feel like the Jazz with guys like Gobert, with a guy like Gobert in there, just anchoring the middle and then just surrounded by just solid guys who know their role. That I think more that, when I think of the ultimate team of role players that won a championship, I think of those Pistons teams. And I'm dating myself now. I'm 42. So I grew up watching those teams.
Okay, I feel you. I'm about to say I wasn't quite around back then, but I've watched more than enough backup games to fill myself on what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, you grew up probably with just the Bulls winning all the time, just like kids nowadays are growing up with the Warriors winning all the time. It's hard to even think of other teams. You have the Spurs, I guess. The Rockets teams, maybe with Olajuwon. He was definitely a star. So he's kind of like a Gobert of that team. And then they didn't really have any standout stars. I think Kenny Smith was probably their second best player on those teams.
That's saying a lot. Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to see if Utah can do it. I mean, defense wins championships, they say. So I think let's see if that proves itself true this year. Because I don't know. I mean, they're big enough to hang with the Lakers. They're big enough to keep Harden and Kyrie out of the lane. So ultimately, can they put it together in a whole series and beat those mega offensive stars? It'll be really interesting, but I'm glad they've had potential to be there. The Nuggets, the Jazz, those teams have just built such strong organizations have been super impressed with what they've built. It'd be nice to see them get to that championship game and series with what they've built, because I feel like they'll both feel like they got robbed by the Warriors or the Lakers or the Nets if it doesn't happen for them.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I'm about to date myself here, but I came of age with my Lakers winning the first couple of rings. So
okay, yeah,
that's all I got to say there. But
the Pau Gasol Lakers.
Oh no! I'm a little bit the Kobe Shaq.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. Like I was like the first like really fully in. I was watching Smush Parker, Kwame Brown, Brian Cook. Like that was when I was like, oh, this team is okay.
Big shot, Rob.
Yeah. Just after that, it was fun. Yeah, but no, I agree. I think that if I look at it right now, and if we're looking at the Pecking Order of the West, I still have. I mean, right now the Jazz are up front, so number one, boom. If all is healthy, I'm taking the Lakers right now. But if we're looking at it, I am worried about how LA is right now. I didn't like. Yeah, mind you, you could take that one game against the Nets, throw it out. LeBron when it came to play, Dennis Schroeder, last minute scratch. The guards just did not bring it defensively. Montrezl Harrell only played 15 minutes, and apparently that was because coach thought that it wasn't a good matchup between him. Vogel didn't think it was a good matchup between him and DeAndre Jordan with those minutes being matched against each other. So you can look at that and go, okay, fine. But now you have Miami tomorrow. You have, a tough slate of games coming up here. And it's going to be looking at how you weather the storm with a 36-year-old LeBron James, which at the end of the day, I get the age by number, but at the same time, like, come on now. Especially when to get to this next championship, you're going to have to guard some guys. Like, you can't – the Lakers team as currently constructed is not made to have a stopper or even a quote-unquote adequate defender, really, for Kawhi Leonard, a Paul George, a Kevin Durant, a James Harden. They're already maxed on that, And so LeBron's going to have to stick some of these guys. So how do you measure his minutes? And it's clear goal for the MVP. He won't say it, but we know. Along with the fact that you want this team to kind of stay steady and also build some of these guys up. Guys who have been on the fringe of the rotation, getting their way back in, a Wes Matthews, a Markieff Morris. Balancing all of that. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to watch how the Lakers are moving forward.
No, I totally agree. And, look, LeBron could make a case for the MVP every year. I'm one of those guys who feels like LeBron probably should have gotten the MVP almost every year of his career. And, he deserves it. I feel like he only gave it to other people just wanting to mix it up. But, it's really hard to judge the Lakers without AD in there. I mean, they gave up all their players to get him. So, I mean, he really is the rock of that team. And without AD, who knows? And it sounds like he's going to be out till at least mid-March. Probably, I would suspect till even after the All-Star break. And it breaks my heart because he's on my fantasy team, on my dynasty league. I've paired him and Harden this year after a big trade. So I'm super bummed that I'm going to be without him and the Lakers without him. But they do have enough other pieces, I think, to keep their record good. LeBron's just that good. He's like having three good guys on your team. But you're right. It's going to be a real test of his age, and they're not really going to be able to afford to rest him at all. So it is going to be a good test. Hopefully AD can come back healthy. I hate to see a guy, go out like that. So hopefully he doesn't have the Durant thing where he comes back from a calf injury and, gets hurt again, and or he never comes back because they can't figure out what's going wrong with it. I have no idea how that even happens, but it's going to be interesting. And George, we need Paul George to get back to really gauge what that Clippers team is going to be like. But they've put some really good pieces around. And Denver's had some injuries too, to their good players. So, the West is, with the AD injury, I think it leaves the West up for grabs a little bit. And that the AD injury is a question mark. And, if I'm a lower team in the West, I'm looking at this as an opportunity to secure, a playoff position and make a run. But yeah, I want to see everybody at full strength, ideally, but it's not. 2020 is still leaked into this season a little bit. It's got the 2020-21, so I guess we're still. We still have some residual 2020 weirdness going on this year. Hopefully, maybe after the All-Star break, things start to get a little more clear. But the bottom line is, it's exciting basketball, man. There's the trades that have gone on, the teams that have really built up their rosters. This big three in Brooklyn is super exciting. LeBron's the best free throw shooter on the Lakers, apparently. Did you see that clip of Kyrie?
Yeah. He's the best
He's
shooter.
He's your best.
That was fun. That was fun.
I couldn't see what Harold's reaction was, but
that would have been fun too. I want to see some of that trash talk.
Yeah. But it's look, I love that stuff. And yeah, I mean, bottom line, the West is just super tough. And, and then any team in the East like Atlanta, Miami, you're not out of it. I wouldn't worry if you're fans of those teams. There's going to be room to make it in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, man. But I look forward to doing this NBA talk more often. I hope we can do this primetime show regularly. And I can pick your brain about the NBA. We can talk fantasy. It's just fun, man. It's a great thing to be a part of. I'm glad HoopBall's getting us started.
Definitely. I was about to say the same thing. It's a lot of fun. We got so much more to get to, hopefully in other shows, because I want All-Stars. We got to talk about that, kind of our picks. The Blazers, other interesting teams that we haven't kind of touched on. But you know what? Thank y'all for being here. Like you said, with me and Brent, our little maiden voyage of HoopBall Live Primetime. Definitely make sure to check out HoopBall, hoop-ball.com, on Twitter at HoopBall Tweets. Check us out for sure. Get some more information to join the HoopBall Discord channel. Always great stuff pumping in over there. I need to tune in a lot more, but you're getting expert advice literally almost all hours of the day and into the night from guys like Brent, like Adam King, like Dan Brespris, just these fancy experts that can really help you to know who to play, who should stay, all of that. And then you can follow me on Twitter as well at Corban NBA. Follow Brent at Brent Middleman. I'm always down to talk hoops. Kind of what I like doing here. So hot takes, I'm a little more, little less reserved out there than here, but like I was going Brandon Ingram for MVP week 2. That was embarrassing. But listen, man, thank y'all for joining. Everyone who came in, popped by, appreciate it. Brent, you got anything to say before we head out?
Yeah, just keep it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to be putting these out regularly. We're sort of testing before games, during games, prime time. We're going to have a ton of content at hoop-ball.com. It's super cheap each month to become a Prime member. You get access to the Discord where we have, I think we're up to like 40 different threads where we have, DFS advice. We have dynasty advice. We have daily trade. We have trade advice, rank my team. We have individual threads for every single NBA team with experts and writers for each of those teams monitoring them. It's crazy what you get for your money over there. And yeah, just make sure you subscribe because there's more to come. And, you get more of this. So, and, Warriors.
There we go. Warriors out there. I got to hear it, but for Brent, for myself, thanks again, y'all. And y'all have a great night. Old Dirty Dasher. Jazz are peaking early. We'll see. Clippers, baby. All right. We'll talk about it. We'll see next time. All right. Thanks a lot, y'all.
Back. All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night. All right. Let's see.